today I want to talk about my personal journey through all this UFO stuff and trying to figure out what's going on. And you're starting to, I'm starting to take seriously that there is a UFO crash retrieval program. I feel like that. I'm pretty certain of that. I mean, I don't know. Of course, I've not seen it, and I don't have any firsthand knowledge. I just have books that I've read. But that, and together with David Grush's testimony that backs that up, makes me feel maybe 75% confident that that's true. And then I think that begs the question: well, who's doing this, and why, and what's the goal, and what's going on behind the scenes in the shadow government, or whoever does this stuff? And that's got me kind of down a rabbit hole of just total craziness of like, I started reading David Icke's books, which he talks about this conspiracy with these reptilian people, which sounds crazy, and it sounds, if what David Icke is saying is true, we're basically just like livestock to these aliens, and we have our lives are totally meaningless. We're just here to just graze like cattle and live and die. And I mean, it sounds pretty bleak, but I don't feel certain that that's true. I feel very less certain that that's true, that there's actually reptilian people that are controlling things. But I think it makes me think, so if they're able to put this conspiracy on us and nobody's found out, right? Nobody's like came out like, Bob Lazar says this, but he doesn't have a picture of it. Where's it, if somebody just show us a picture, why is that so hard?
Well, here's the deal that I feel like, man. I'll say this: I don't believe any of the we're being controlled by aliens, because if you think about this for a second, if they have the technology that we think that they have, if they have the influence and power that we think that they have, and truly, if they had this kind of technology and they were this advanced, they wouldn't need to hide from us. They could just beat us into submission and make us cattle. And it's not like we can escape. We're not going to another planet. We're still going to be here. It's not like we can run from them very far. So I don't really think that that's true. Like, now saying that the government may be in contact with aliens is, to me, far-fetched. But it makes more sense than they're farming us. You know what I mean? Like,
that sounds insane. That sounds like, if you really believe that, then everything's pointless. Basically, I don't know. It makes you. I don't know. I don't believe that. I don't like to think about that stuff. And one of the things that so we started watching the Wi-Fi, which was really good. And when he was talking about the reptilians, he said, as I'm reading about the reptilians and like trying to figure out this reptilian lore, there's a lot of negativity. These people have a very negative outlook and like bleak outlook, and they're almost like upset and angry about whatever these reptilians are doing. And he like makes a point. Well, okay, so if they're allegedly like feeding off our negative emotions, right, which is kind of what David Icke said, then aren't you just kind of fueling their hunger by even just reading about them and learning about them and talking about them? So maybe it's best to just not even.
The only reason that anybody would, let's just say that this is a hypothesis that could be true, right? Somebody has come up with the reptilian thing. The only reason for them to be in hiding and not telling us anything is that we're advancing so quickly that we may be able to mount a defense. But the truth is if they were that powerful, they wouldn't be worried about us advancing and mounting a defense against them or fighting back against them. They would just put us out of our misery, or take care of the problem before it becomes a problem. I don't think that any of that could be true.
Yeah.
That's just me personally. I honestly don't think, like, you get down to it, as far as aliens and having alien craft, I can believe. Finding alien bodies is less believable, but I can believe it. Finding, but being in contact with them already is like like making deals and treaties with them and stuff like that is highly unbelievable to me.
Mm-hmm.
And part of the issue is that we end up going down these rabbit holes of just wild speculation because we have a lot of, I'm just gonna say it, we had a lot of idiots. You know what I'm saying? And they'll just come out and they'll look for attention and they'll come up with all kinds of stuff. I mean, there could be some basis for believing that humans were reptilian, or that there were some reptilian beings at one point on the earth, or visited the earth. There's you could look at that, but they've gone off the deep end. Like, we were going to war with them in an underground base. Like, come on.
Oh yeah, that's another interesting thing I want to bring up. So David Icke says, and through my journeys of just talking to these people on Facebook, there is a group of people who call themselves military abductees or mil labs, and what they say is that they are abducted and then indoctrinated into the super soldier program. Somehow they're taken to Mars, and I don't know, at night when they're supposed to be sleeping, or I don't know how this works out, how they can manage their daily life and still be fighting a war on Mars. But somehow they're transported to Mars, and I don't know how this works. Maybe they're like have like super robot suits or something, but they end up being super soldiers. We're fighting this war on Mars with somebody for the reptilians, I guess. And it all sounds crazy, but there is several people from all over the world who say that they are part of this, and whether or not they're just looking for attention, I don't know. But I can show you several people's YouTube channels where they say they are these military abductees who are in the super soldier program. And one thing I noticed too is a lot of them, they're like in their, like, getting towards our age, in their late 40s, where their bodies are starting to, degrade and stuff. And they look pretty rough. Like, they look like they've been through it. Like, either they were like alcoholics for 20 years and just like, I don't know, just really unhealthy or something, but something that these people seem like they've been through something. I don't know. It's hard to say.
Yeah, I mean, most people I meet with some kind of psychosis have probably been on drugs or alcohol for a large portion of their life. You gotta think about it, man. There's a lot of brave people out here in the world where they're brave enough to put themselves out on a pedestal or out in front and make a wild, crazy claim like it's okay to do that, and then they can live with themselves for saying something like that for the rest of their lives. That's how I feel about it. Like, I can't get behind that one because there's uh, we haven't seen advances in technology in the civilian world, and we definitely didn't see any advances in technology in the military world that would help us here on Earth that could justify saying that there's even more advanced technology out there. You know what I'm saying? Like, like when we go to war, we don't have the best equipment. We like to think we do. We have better equipment than everyone else, but I can find things in the civilian world that are far better than the stuff we had in the military. So when I look at that and I say, okay, well, now there's some secret space program where they're out in space on another planet fighting a war. The amount of technology that they would need to accomplish that is astronomical compared to what we are being told we have and what we have and what we're able to use every day here on Earth. Like, if you had somebody, especially an American, that had done something like that, you would see um, we would be the most dominant country in the world, and there would be no question. Nobody would question it. You know what I'm saying? Nobody would try to overtake us economically. Nobody would try to threaten us with nuclear warheads. We'd be vastly superior to all of them.
Right. So, yeah, that's a good point. So We have the TR-3B here on the screen. Where's our fleet of TR-3Bs that came out and just annihilated, everybody in the Iraq War? Why didn't that happen, right? So why would nobody would stand against us if we had this fleet of TR-3Bs that could dance around any craft, But that hasn't happened. We haven't seen it, and for a long time, it sounded really absurd to me. I think. I was going to bring up a point, but I forgot. But yeah, exactly. Where are the? We haven't even seen a picture of it, so we just have a faint outline or video of it, and to orchestrate this level of conspiracy, how much control do these people actually have over our society? That's what I really makes me start to think about. Do they have control over what's played on the news? Do they have control over I watched the Project Blue Book show on History Channel, and that's part of what they were. I don't know if you watched that one, but that's a pretty good one. And it was the Air Force that was running it at first, and General Twining, he was one of the main guys, and he wanted control over Hollywood, basically how Hollywood was going to portray aliens in their movies, so they could control the narrative of what we think about aliens. And they even, part of that was they were considering taking their reverse engineered craft and orchestrating a fake alien invasion on us. So we would see these alien craft show up and annihilate a city or something, and we'd be like, holy shit, we need to give the Space Force all our money now so they can fight these terrible people, and it's really, whoever this is. And so, I think once you're there, you're like, okay, I feel like with a lot of confidence they do have reverse engineered craft, or they do have bodies. So how did they hide it from us for so long? What have they been doing to us? And what other awful things have they been doing to us? Because I've been watching the X-Files lately. I have never watched all the X-Files, but I'm watching the entire X-Files series. And they kind of portray what they have I guess it's like a syndicate. And they have the smoking man. He just sits there and he's like, kill him, I want him dead. And they just kill him. He just does all this awful stuff. They make these bees that are infected with smallpox and release them on a playground of kids, and it's just they're just doing awful shit in the background. And it makes me think are they really doing awful shit in the background? Or they have this super secret technology that we don't know about, and they're just okay, let's try to give bees smallpox and see what happens, guys. Or maybe they create COVID. Maybe it's not. I really considered that, and when COVID first started, I was in New York City for COVID with my girlfriend at the time, and as it first started, I remember I was following the news on China. There was these protests in Beijing. They're getting crazy. All these people are going hard against the Chinese government. Fuck you. They're creating this surveillance state, even worse than ours, and everybody's protesting against that. That's awesome. That's what they should be doing. And as soon as COVID started, all those people cleared off the streets. They were gone. And my first thought was COVID? Did China be well, we got to do something about these guys. Let's just you guys got something? And they're yeah, we'll just spray some virus over them so you just go fucking home. And they're okay, let's try that. Maybe that's what happened. I don't know. I feel that could have been what happened. And it makes me it makes you into this more paranoid state, I guess, where you're feeling okay, do I need to I'm starting to think about what kind of food should I be eating, because maybe my your food does have pesticides on it. Some of it does, and you need to really be considerate of that. I feel and I'm more considerate of it now. What has pesticides? What has poisons in it? If you're drinking water out of a plastic bottle and the sunlight is passing through it, you're getting plastic into that water. You're drinking plastic. We all have plastic in our bodies now.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Where's the FDA? Why didn't they do anything about that? They didn't. You know,
Microplastics and stuff. The thing is, bro, like a lot of us have been saying this for a long time, and it's 100% true. Um, regulations have caused a lot of this, right? Over-regulation has caused this. So you think about, all right, you cannot sell. It's harder for you to sell something organic in the grocery store than it is for you to sell something that has pesticides used, that has genetic modifications. You know, it's harder for you to grow and sell that as a farmer unless it has pesticides and genetic modifications and many other things. I'm not an expert on the farming regulations, but I do know that you have a harder time being approved to sell your food if you just grew it in the dirt and gave it away, you know?
Yeah.
So that's a problem. So then you have these large companies that push for these regulations. And what they're doing is they're pricing the little guy out. So let's say that, Dirch wants to grow a farm. He goes out there, he starts a farm. He can't sell anywhere but a farmer's market. And, in some cases, in some states, you may still have to get with the health department before you're allowed to sell at a farmer's market. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And you're going to have to pay money. You're going to have all your stuff approved. You're going to have your ingredients approved. If your ingredients is just straight up tomatoes grown in the ground, you're going to have to get approved. You know what I'm saying? And that's why organic stuff costs more than the stuff that's got crap in it, which you would think would cost more, because you've spent all this money, on it. So the regulations have really put us into that point. But kind of getting back to your point, though, as far as the government hiding UFOs, I think the way that they've gotten away with it all this time is back in the 40s and 50s and 60s, people had a lot more trust in just the government and the military. You know what I'm saying? Like they trusted the Air Force, they trusted all these government agencies, things like that. Then the stuff got secret, it got compartmentalized. And when stuff is secret and compartmentalized, we have a black budget at the Pentagon that is absolutely enormous. I don't know what the number is, but I know it's really enormous. And
billions.
Yeah, billions, like tens of billions, maybe even hundreds. And we run, at least a few years ago, we were running an $800 billion a year deficit. So just think about, if that's just our deficit alone, what's going in this black budget? Well, nobody knows what it goes to because there's no oversight over it at all. So things that get compartmentalized like that end up compartmenting themselves off and end up becoming so secretive that nobody ends up with oversight over it. So for years, these projects have been funded with no oversight. And I think I learned that from Lou Elizondo. And I got a lot of respect for the things that he says, because he says, and I think if we want to find the answers to what we're looking for, we really could find the answers. The problem is it's a lot to dig through. But if you just go back and look at all of Lou's interviews with people, he said one time, I think a lot more has been said than you think has. He said there a lot more has been said than you think has. So if you go back and you look at all of his stuff, and then you go back and you listen to all of David Grush's stuff, I think somebody with a good mind is going to be able to get very close to the truth, if not get the truth. You know what I mean? Like right now, Grush said that he's talking about what facilities are holding these UFOs. I feel like I know where at least something may be happening, because you just follow the trail. You know what I'm saying? Now, does that mean it's going to be accessible to me and you? No, not really. But they have this stuff. We know they have it. Lou said that. David Grush came out and said it. I think there's there's a lot of funding going to it and no oversight. And I think that's how they kept it secret for so long. Now we've got Congress people on both sides of the aisle very upset. Congress people on both sides of the aisle. Congress people that you wouldn't think would do this either, saying we're not going to let partisan politics play a role in this. We're going to get to the bottom of it. You know what I mean? Like Chuck Schumer came out with a bill against it. Tim Burchett's on it. Even AOC's in there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Trying to find out the truth. People want to know. I think everyone just genuinely wants to know, are there aliens? I think you should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law if you withhold from the American people, at a minimum, and from the world, if there's aliens. If there's extraterrestrial life, if there's life that's not of the earth, if there's life in the center of the earth, which I doubt. However, I'm not willing to discount it. You know what I'm saying? If there's life somewhere like that, with technology, I think that it should genuinely be a criminal, like a capital punishment, because you've kept the most important question that we can answer from us all. There's two things you want to know, right? Are we alone, and what happens when you die?
Yeah.
So, and one of those is inconclusive because everybody who dies, or they come back and then somehow they were really alive or something, and everybody's is different. But then you turn around and you say, are we alone in the universe? And then you got people out here trying to obscure it. You know what I mean? Like, I think it should be a capital punishment. Like, seriously, like you've kept from the whole world the one question that we all want to know. And the truth is, if we all found out that there were aliens, there would probably be and if we found out they were a threat by any means or could threaten us, there'd probably be a whole lot more cooperation on behalf of the world governments.
Absolutely. I mean, maybe.
But
I don't know. I mean, I was gonna say maybe they're I don't know. Maybe they're not a threat, and they just want to portray them as a threat. I mean, it sounds like from what Russia's saying is that we fired on them, and haven't really fired on us. Only maybe in defensive, posture a few times, but not really. Don't seem to outright just want to just shoot us and kill us. But
violence could be something that is only native to Earth and to humans.
Yeah.
I mean, we do have. If you look at all the other animals on Earth, you have people that are territorial and things like. You have animals that are territorial, animals that fight for mating, and we got dudes that do this stuff too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We got a lot of dudes out here that do the same stuff, the same aggressive behavior. I got a guy at work, God bless him, but he walks around puffing his chest out at everybody because he finally got some muscles. And I said, Steven, somebody's going to knock you out one day for doing that because it's aggressive and threatening. Yeah. But that may be something that only happens on Earth. I mean, like, it may be something that only happens here. They may not be accustomed to violence,
Right. So, yeah. I honestly think, and this is something that I've read, Linda Moulton Howe said she had some CIA documents saying that they analyzed the DNA of these aliens with their bodies, and they share some DNA with us. And I think that's true. I've read other things similar, and the story goes is they experiment on these primates. There's some primates maybe they start walking around and like, it's kind of close to where they need to be, but let's just like, here we go, let's give them a little DNA, and we became us, and like we're not. One of the arguments towards this is we're not actually really suited that well for this planet compared to other animals and other creatures. Just like physically, we're not that strong compared to other animals. We're not, fast. We're not really, we lost all our body hair, so we don't really have a lot of protection. We actually get injured if we're in the sun for a long time, which a lot of animals don't have that. They have more protection from the sun than we do. And really, we're kind of weak, but our only adaptation is, building tools. And that's what kept our ancestors alive, is they could build a spear or they could take this pelts from another animal and make clothes with it. So
it's scary, isn't it? It's really scary to think about being on the bottom of the food chain.
Yeah.
like if you're out in the wilderness, like naked and afraid, like you're out there alone, you really have nothing other than your brain to think your way out of all the situations.
You better know what you're doing or you're gonna die. Basically.
Yeah. You better hope you get lucky too.
Yeah, unless you're like Bear Grylls and you know how to fucking start a fire with the sticks and bullshit. You're
maybe, yeah.
You're probably gonna die. So that's kind of.
Yeah.
I feel like that's true, but I don't know. I just kind of. That's what I feel like. I feel like maybe what it is they've kind of helped us along and maybe visited us a long time ago, and now we're kind of just like we're not pets, but they're kind of like these simple creatures. We're just watching them and hoping that they get smart enough to stop fighting each other and building nuclear bombs and just join us and exploring the universe or whatever the hell they're doing. I don't know. I feel like maybe they're not evil and they're just waiting for us to chill the fuck out and come
Maybe
be cool with us. I don't know. I hope so. I hope that's what's.
I doubt a lot of it though. What I really think is going on is, this makes a lot of sense too. Is that the Earth? My father has decided that there have been 3 Earths, and what he means by that is the Earth has been us basically 3 times and has fallen, has been destroyed one way or the other. Like 3 apocalypses, and he does that while he's researching like biblical stuff and stuff like that. But it really isn't there. I'm not going to say that to discount him, because you already know that we've talked about the Younger Dryas period, and I watched Graham Hancock on Netflix, and he's finding these civilizations that archaeologists don't want to talk about because they've spent their entire lives dating things, writing books about discoveries and the dates of them, the dates when humans did this, the dates when humans did that. All this stuff they've made their lives off of, and they've made money. I mean, like lots of money. Some of them are probably New York Times bestsellers if anybody's into science, I guess. Or archaeology, or they've made millions selling their books and textbooks to colleges.
Dating at least they publish research papers.
Yeah. They've made their whole careers, their names, everything. They've had libraries at universities named after them from their work in the subject. They're not ready to tell you that this structure that's underwater was man-made. We were wrong about when we dated things. They're not ready to do that.
Yeah.
And it's ridiculous, but the truth is, there really could be something to that.
I think so. I think there is.
It could be. I mean, and you think about it, like you go to like Antarctica, you're finding things in the ice, like frozen animals and stuff that you didn't think would be there. You're finding things in geology that you weren't thinking would be there. If you want to find a past civilization, which is really weird, you have to dig down under the ground. I don't know. I haven't figured out how in the hell the ground keeps coming up. You know what I mean? But, if you really think about it, the plates and everything, they go under other plates.
Everything gets consumed by the Earth. So,
and then comes. Yeah, so I mean, it does somehow bury itself. But we're talking about, you're excavating Roman ruins. I went to Rome, and there are buildings, multiple stories underground that we had to dig out. And I'm like, how did it get below the dirt?
Yeah.
What did we just for 2,000 years or 3,000 years, did we just allow dirt and sediment to continue piling on top? It doesn't make any sense to me. But it's true nonetheless, whether it makes sense to me or not. So imagine if you dug deep enough and you could see stuff that hadn't deteriorated. What would we find? Would we just only find dinosaurs? Because dinosaurs aren't even that deep, apparently. If you can find them, stumbling across some rocks in Utah or something, and you find a T-Rex, so they're not even that deep. Imagine what is down there. We don't know. We have no idea. Scientists say they know that the Earth has got a soft, molten core and all this. They don't know that. They ain't never been down there. There could be a whole entire lost civilization that just sunk beneath the sediment. A whole city waiting for us to explore. I mean,
Yeah, I think they did find some kind of ocean underneath the crust. Like there's
Yes,
more
yeah,
there than they know. There's, and there could be underground stuff. I don't know, underground. Yeah, I had a thought earlier about this. So I saw this like underground structure that they found somewhere. Like they opened a cellar and they knocked the wall down from the cellar and found all this underground structures and stuff. And it makes me think, like, why don't we build underground more often? Why don't we have, because that seems like it would be, it would be easier to heat and cool. It'd be easier, it'd be more stable, it'd be safe from hurricanes and stuff if you could ventilate it right. And why don't we do that more often? I don't know. Is that just too hard to do? I don't know.
I think it's very dangerous. I mean,
Yeah, you're probably right.
you go underground, and all it takes, like, you dig a cave out underground. Right? Let's say you dig it out. I went and ate in a cave. I ate lunch in a cave not too long ago. There's a whole restaurant in one in Missouri, right? I went and ate there. If the ceiling fell, we would die. Like, if part of a rock just fell, sorry, if the temperature changes enough, maybe even 10 degrees, it could cause a crack in a rock. Boom, you're dead instantly. And imagine if you start putting a lot of people in there.
Yeah.
I mean, even, coal miners do that stuff all the time. I mean, probably once every 20 years, we end up with people trapped in a coal mine. We don't know how the heck to get them out, So it sounds great in theory, I mean, with the people like the underground bases that we have hidden in mountains, to protect our wealthy elite and stuff, they sound great. But I mean, you're got a rock over your head that if it falls, you're gonna die, all of you. It's gonna be like not like a cool death either, like I mean, it's probably better than burning alive, but
yeah, I imagine if they did that, they'd build, maybe line it with concrete or build like pillars or something. I don't know.
Maybe.
Anyway, I was gonna say I had another point. So I had another thought earlier. So I read Colonel Corso's A Day After Roswell. And what Colonel Corso says is that so the Army, the whole Pentagon kind of secretly knew about this. Yeah, we got the UFO shit. The Army's got some of it, Navy's got some of it. It's all, this guy, he had it hid away in a file cabinet. He had the fucking UFO, all the shit in this file cabinet that the Army had. He said, they gave it to him. They said, don't tell anybody this. But what you need to do is take this stuff and see if you can give it to American companies to see if they can make something out of it, reverse engineer something out of it. And he said what came out of it was the transistor that, we all have that makes our computers super powerful, super tiny, we can fit billions of transistors in there. And the integrated circuit and some stealth stuff. But it makes me think, like, so in the past 100 years, our technology has just jumped. It's exponentially, like, Grandpa looking at our computers and stuff, he's like, what the fuck are y'all doing with this fucking TikTok bullshit? He doesn't understand any of this because it's changed so rapidly. And anytime in history, if somebody jumped forward 100 years, maybe 1,000 years, it wouldn't be that much different. Like if you were from the Bronze Age and you jumped forward 100 years, you'd be like, oh, well, now they have a little bit better swords or something. But it's basically kind of looks the same. But in the past 100 years, it's gotten so, our technology is just like jumped. And now we have computers, AI is starting to replace people in jobs and normal jobs that, people used to be able to do. And, it's maybe getting out of control of technology. Like, we don't understand the consequences of having this much technology, and maybe it's bad for us. And there's certainly probably some aspects that are bad for us, like staring at a screen, having your kids stare at the fucking iPhone all the fucking time. But that's what they want to do. That's what they want to do now. And
that's it.
Yeah, but I think they probably had all this other stuff. Like, we could release the free energy machine, but somebody could take the free energy machine and make a super bomb out of it that can destroy a whole continent or something. And they're just like, maybe we can't release that. And so maybe
the problem is, The problem for me is I think if you choose 100 years, we've jumped rapidly from the 1920s to now. But if you take it from, all right, so like radio has been around. It's been around for a while. It's been around in the 20s. It's been around.
Yeah.
It was in the 30s and it was in the 40s. They had backpack radios with phones on them. This is apparently before all the UFO stuff, right? So we were already using radar to see things, so that one's kind of out of the question. Stealth would be invented because we have radar that we have to defeat it. So now we have a reason to defeat radar, which is a reason to develop stealth. So I don't feel like stealth is alien technology. I mean, it doesn't make much sense to me. But transistors and things like that. So when I start looking at that kind of stuff, it makes me more skeptical to think that these people have. First of all, we have a community of people that are in charge of this stuff that are extremely reluctant to release any information at all to us about it even existing. I don't think that alien technology's played a big role in what we do. I think that, I mean, like LCD screens have been around for a while. I had one when I was 12 when I had a video camcorder. It had an LCD screen on it,
Yeah.
And we carry these things around on our pocket all the time. Only thing is technology has just shrunk. It has shrunk, and the computing space that we need, because everybody's having access to it, has grown. I don't think that. So I look at like transistors, right? I mean, what are they made out of? Copper. Um, I don't know what a transistor really is, but I can tell you it's made out of earthly items. Every single piece of it is earthly. Everything is earthly. But when you think about the alien tech that Bob Lazar talked about and that other people have talked about needing an element that's not of the earth, you know what I mean? That stuff makes me believe it more. And the reason I say that is because I think that scientists are really stupid. Okay. They come off, well, maybe not the scientists are stupid, but the people who believe them. You can't tell me that somebody at NASA looked through the James Webb Telescope and saw a certain color of light coming from a planet, and they could tell me what kind of minerals are on that planet. They don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think they can. And the reason I say that is because they've never went to one of these planets that they've looked at and verified what was on it. It could be another element that gives off a very similar or strikingly similar light. And that's what they see. You know what I'm saying? They don't know because they haven't been there.
I would do that physics class.
You learn how to do it with an earthly item on the planet of the Earth, right? Now, that may work all well and good here, but there are minerals. We know that there are minerals. There are. We know this because we're making them in a particle collider right now. We may be making something totally brand new that's never existed in the history of the universe, for all I know. But we do know that other things could exist and probably do exist. There's almost no way that it doesn't. There's almost no way that there's not many different other minerals that we have no idea what they are on these other planets. You know what I mean? And they're so far away, all we're doing is analyzing the color of the light that comes from them. Now we can say what we think it is, you know what I'm saying? And we can go off of that, but I don't think they have it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just don't think that they do. I don't know how I got on this subject, but it irritates the crap out of me because people just they believe this stuff, and it's like I appreciate what they're trying to do, but you can't tell me if we know all this stuff that we say we know, right? If we know that Albert Einstein's theory of relativity is 100% true, then why is it still called a theory? Why aren't we putting any of it into action? The only thing we put into action so far are GPS satellites and time dilation that I know of, So it really kind of gets me, like if you know if you know, like, say the 0 point energy, right? And I hate the way that Stephen Greer talks about it because he acts like it's just a readily accessible thing that it's totally okay. Bob Lazar told us what it was in the Lazar tapes, and he explained exactly how they make it, like how you power these craft.
Mm-hmm.
And you do it with the when radioactive matter decays, it releases energy.
Mm-hmm.
He has an entire. He tells you how it works. I think we can't do a lot of this stuff because it's radioactive. Well, everything that we're talking about is completely radioactive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like all the elements, you can't get near those things. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah. Remember that case? I think you brought it up. There was like this woman in Texas that saw the UFO and like got out of her car, thought it was Jesus or something, and it just like totally
Yes.
irradiated her. And like she definitely got radiation poisoning and had serious effects and could never get the government to admit that was what they did.
There's.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was a UFO or I don't know what she saw realistically,
but she definitely
it
got
sounds like
radiated.
something the government. Yeah, it definitely sounded like something the government would do, and it definitely sounded like something that sounds like a UFO would be capable of. You know, because the way that Bob Lazar explained it, and I'll give you my best off the cuff explanation. He basically said that what was that element 114 or
115.
whatever
Yeah.
115. Yeah, so he said that they take one element and they stick it in there, and he basically showed a piece of paper that they stick inside the thing, and then they bombard it with other elements. It turns into they bombard this element until it becomes with a particle accelerator until it becomes element 115. Instantly decays, right?
Mm-hmm.
When it decays, it falls down a vacuum tube, doesn't touch anything, and then releases all of its energy, and that energy is then used basically thermogenic energy, kind of like what our satellites use and stuff like that, and it creates the energy to power the craft. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically how he comes up with the fuel source for the craft.
Oh, I'll say when I'm like at least 8 or 7.
Okay. Actually, I'm going to stop the recording now. Just say it. That's fine. Say welcome back to UFO in the Know, buddy. Come on, do it.
No, you
All right, welcome back to UFO in the Know. So, I don't want to talk about. So, David Rush and David Icke, the reptilian guy. A lot of people are saying there's like this interdimensional aspect to all this, right? So David Icke explains that like there's like the sixth dimension, right? That how these aliens are coming and they come from the sixth dimension and somehow in our dimension they look like reptilian people. But there's other CIA documents that say that there is this interdimensional aspect to it. And one of the most interesting ones is I read the whole Project Stargate document that the CIA had, and the Project Stargate was their psychic spy program. It's real. It's real. And they said that so what they do is they meditate, they go have these out of body experiences, and they said that they could go into like some Russian general's office and see the documents on his desk, basically, and write down what he's got on his desk. They said they could do that. I don't know.
The remote viewing?
Yeah, remote viewing. And they said, so if you do this remote viewing, which I have the HemiSync tapes downloaded, I actually paid $80 for it, which I probably could have got for free somewhere, but I paid for it. I paid whoever the HemiSync website actually paid them about their tapes. And I listen to them somewhat often, but I don't think I've had an out-of-body experience yet. But they say they do this and have this out-of-body experience, and they run into these beings. You're like in this out-of-body world, like, whoa, in the astral plane. And, you run into these guys or, these lizard people. It opens up this whole another like world of possibility you feel like exists, and now you need to think about like is there a sixth dimension, and like are there reptilians just watching us at a time? They're standing outside of time itself, and we can just hop in at any point and just I don't know, manipulate us, or I don't know. I feel like
It kind of makes, it makes sense though, because like they said, you've heard the whole thing, like where if we were on a piece of flat paper and like everything was flat, like, and if everything was flat and we were little squares, our houses were all flat, you lived your life on a flat plane, and you didn't know what up and down was. You just knew what forward, back, side, and side were. Well, some being could come along and say hi to you, and you would never see them. You'd have no idea who they were or where they were. You couldn't look up. And finally, he got irritated enough with you that he flicked you up in the air, and then you flipped around and you saw everything. It fell back down. Like we wouldn't know if there's another. So everything to us is 3-dimensional. We wouldn't know if there's a 4th dimension because we just wouldn't know. So it could make some sense to me. Part of the thing that kills me though is that people say this stuff, but they don't. Grush kind of kills me. And I'll tell you why, because, and I like what he's doing. I think what he's doing is the right thing and the right way to do it. But it kills me because, like, you're blowing the whistle, but you're not really blowing the whistle because you're not giving it to you're not giving this information to anybody, And imagine if Edward Snowden blew the whistle the way that David Grush did. The proper way, the appropriate way. Yeah, we would have never found out any of this stuff. We would have never known any of it that was going on. We'd have no idea about what all's really being tracked on us. Now we know. We can't do anything about it. Nothing's going to stop it. But now we know. We know a lot of stuff. We're never going to find out what they don't want us to find out. And like he says, there's interdimensional. That they may be interdimensional. And I heard him say that. I want to know, the big question I have isn't, are they interdimensional? And I don't care about that. I want to know what the other dimension is. Where is it? What is it? Is there another dimension?
This book I'm reading now, I gotta remember this guy's name. He's a military whistleblower. Oh man, this is wild. So he says, basically, the aliens have been visiting him since he was a kid, and he has like a friend that's like this alien that just helps him with his homework and like just comes and pops in every once in a while, which sounds crazy, right? Like, okay,
schizo, yeah.
Sounds like you're schizo, but he was like enlisted. I think he made it to sergeant or something, and he's saying that he had this ongoing relationship with this alien, right? And this alien told him that in their civilization, which is way more advanced than ours, they proved with their technology that there is a God and that there is an afterlife. And they have like a machine that can just take you to the afterlife, and you can pop in and just say hi to your dead relatives or whoever you want to say hi to. And he said, this alien said like his son died in like a crash or something, and he was devastated, right? And then this alien pops in and he's like, I can feel your pain. He said, you want to see him? You want to go see your son? And he said, yes. And then the alien, like, I don't know, puts his hands on him and was like, you are going to the afterlife. And he pops in and he sees his son. And he says, I can't remember the interaction with my son because he can't take that memory back or something. But he said he saw his son for a little bit. And I don't know if that's real, but I like reading that stuff just because even if it's
entertaining,
it sounds really wild. I don't know if it's true, but he's saying like, so the other dimension is basically like where you go where you die. You just go and hang in this other dimension. You're just like, oh hey, what's cool?
It's weird. It's weird, yeah. I mean, it kind of sounds like, if I were to come at it from the religious aspect, that would sound like something like a demon. Like truthfully, like they lie. They tell you lies. They show you things. They say, like that. That's what that comes across as. And, truthfully, I don't know what to think about that. Like I really don't.
I had an interesting point to say on that. So I read a little bit of Jack Haley's, one of his books. which was super interesting. He's one of the most interesting ufologists, I think, because he talks a lot about this interdimensional stuff and how they visited us throughout time. And he said people have had these interactions with these basically the same ones, but they always present themselves like they've kind of lied to people along the way. Like they'll say, like early on, he said that somebody had this interaction with them in the 1800s, 1700s, and they said they were from Venus. And then they found out, in the early 19th century, 18th century, that Venus is not habitable. It's like, it's basically all burned up. And then they said, well, no, we're from Mars. And, somebody else said they're from Mars. And then, we find out, well, Mars doesn't have life, it's just air. And so then they say, no, we're from Sirius out in some other solar system or something, or other constellation out in another galaxy. And, like, he's saying, like, it kind of sounds like they've been perpetrating these people who think they're having these religious experiences, or even that's how people interpret it, or whether they believe they're goblins or aliens or demons, like they do kind of lie and lead people on. It sounds like they're kind of like manipulating us in a sense, like they're like just telling us whatever we want to believe and like leading us on like we're children.
Yeah, it's weird, but it does make sense. It does make sense from the aspect of their demons, or something like that. Like you could tell. So think about like if you saw an alien and he told you anything, you'd believe it. You'd fucking believe it. You'd believe whatever he said. Because you don't have a choice. You don't know.
Have to trust it. He knows. He probably knows way more. He knows like exponentially way more knowledge than you. And so,
or he could just be an idiot who bought a brand new car and then flew it through space and found us and just told us some bullshit.
Yeah.
Like he could be the Jay and Silent Bob of the fucking alien race. You have no idea.
Yeah. They're like,
you have no idea.
We're from Venus or super alien. Okay, I guess that's what we gotta do.
It could be what it is. You have no idea. So that's kind of my thought on it. Like I don't, and people are crazy, man. People do stuff and say stuff that's, they do stuff and they say stuff that's gonna get them attention, and like I said, like some people are okay living their lives.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're okay going around and being that guy who said those things or did those things for the rest of their life,
Yeah, I mean that's just like the guy who goes around and pretends he was a Navy SEAL.
Yes.
Just telling everybody this awesome story to make everybody think he's this badass guy. You can tell people, oh yeah, I was a super soldier for the alien reptilians. I was even better than a Navy SEAL. I had super Mega Man proton arms that shot lasers, or I don't know.
My mother-in-law dated a guy like that. His name was Mike. He had a parrot tattooed on his arm, and he was an idiot. And when I met Mike, I was still in the Navy, and I met him, and he told me that he was in the military, and he said he was in the Special Forces. That doesn't mean anything to me, because what are you like? I met a guy who's a Green Beret. That's Special Forces. He told me he was a Green Beret.
Yeah.
I met another guy who was a Green Beret medic. I met. I don't know how many people I've met that were a SEAL, but I've met guys that I'm trying to think of some. I've met a few guys that have been throughout just different random things in the military. You know what I mean?
Well, there is that CB attachment that goes. Sorry to interrupt you, but I know there is that CB attachment that goes with the SEALs, and they
Dev Group.
Yeah, Dev Group.
Yeah, that's SEAL Team 6, and and they do go with them, and sometimes they do get an opportunity to be part of missions. But they don't. I know people who've done that. I have a friend who does that. You probably have met him. And thing is, he won't tell you what they do. He'll tell you that it's cool. Or if it's not cool, but he's not going to tell you exactly what they do. And anybody that like does that kind of stuff isn't going to tell you exactly what they do. You know, like it's kind of like, I don't know, man. They'll just tell you whatever kind of bullcrap you want to hear, and that's what I feel like a lot of the the UFO community believes.
Yeah.
That's why I don't like Stephen Greer, because I listened to him talk to. So I watch a podcast called the Sean Ryan Show.
Yeah,
phenomenal.
Some of that, yeah, it's really good. Yeah,
I think it may be better than Joe Rogan, really.
Yeah,
And
I think you're right. Yeah,
and Greer was on it, and Greer's talking. Greer gets a lot of credible people coming to him,
Mhm.
and it surprises me because of all the bullshit surrounding David, Stephen Greer. So it's like, why would you? Why? I'm so glad David Grush didn't go to Greer. According to Greer, he'd spoke to him before about this stuff, but I would not ever go to him with anything because of all the bullshit surrounding it. You know what I mean? All the dumb stuff that's come out of his mouth. You know, he's like, oh, they took me down to this place on the border and they walked me into this facility, and the guy standing guard, the Marine or whatever, he was like, first of all, it's a Marine doing standing guard there. And then second of all, he's like, why is Dr. Greer here? Well, that's above your pay grade. Bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Like, bullshit. You know, like, I know how this stuff works. It's nothing like that has ever happened, and it frustrates me because if it has happened, I'll eat my own words, but I highly doubt it. You know, and I don't know, man. I don't know why these people, if people will watch this stuff and believe it. And I'm like, dude, you have to separate the fact from the fiction. And a lot of people are too stupid to do that. You know, they're too stupid to separate the fact from the fiction. Like my father, right? I'm going to tell you what my dad did. And if he ever watches this, he'll probably get upset. But, you know, he thought there were nanobots inside of the vaccine for COVID. You say what you want about the COVID vaccine. I don't care, you know, personally. Do whatever you and your doctor decide to do. But I'll tell you what's not in it. Nanotechnology. There's not little robots going inside your body. Nobody's wasting that kind of money and technology on that. And I don't even know if we have that kind of technology. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but just the fact that somebody can be dumb enough to believe that that's true has just destroyed a lot of the credibility in the UFO community, in my opinion. You know?
Yeah.
Just destroyed it.
And one point I want to make, like, as I'm looking at this scale, I want to say, like, to your dad's credit, or to everybody who's like QAnon crazy or gone off the conspiracy deep end, like, once you get past here that, oh yeah, there is a UFO reverse engineer program, and you start to think about, well, what's the next, what's really going on that we don't know about? And there's a huge unknown. There's a huge unknown there, and you're like out in the space, like grasping at all these things. You know, David Icke over here saying they're lizard people. David Grush over here saying they're interdimensional whatchaheads. You know, Elizondo saying this, and you're just trying to figure all this out, put all these pieces together. It's insane. You know, you got all this wild information coming at you. And
Stephen Greer is telling you that he's got an alien body in his possession. And the government has somehow not come and confiscated it from him and made sure that nobody else knew about it. You know, after all the cover up and secrecy they've gone through, they've just allowed him to have it. You know?
Yeah. I think he got those from one of those Peru mummy people. He got one of those Peru mummies.
You used to be able to walk around Egypt and buy a mummy from a guy selling mummies.
Yeah, they used to grind them up and smoke them like something. Yeah. All right, well, it's getting like 10. I want to log off at like 10 my time. This Friday. Yeah, we're gonna head upstairs.
Yeah, let me go ahead and close out the Twitch. I don't think the Twitch stream went really great. I mean, nobody watched it, but I don't think it went really great. But the truth is, you got to start somewhere with it to figure out what's going on with how this is going to work. One viewer. I wonder if I'm the viewer.
Oh.
If you're the viewer,